Welcome to the Strength Connection podcast, a show to share stories, insights, and experiences in strength, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm Michael Krukowski, host of the Strength Connection, and I'm so grateful that you can join me today. So in these episodes, I connect with some of the most inspiring and successful individuals to chop it up and learn from true life experiences that have helped them become who they are, the strongest versions of themselves. One of the greatest ways I've always learned the most important lessons is through stories. We all have them, and they make us who we are. So let's dive in. Here we go. In this episode, I'm with Garnett Strother. Garnett is a master martial artist, a strength coach, and the owner of Strother PT in New York City. I heard about Garnett from a great friend of mine when he was a guest on his show, and his insights into communication and the art of listening was really interesting, which is he has curated now into his new book, Kagami, The Art of Listening and the 5 Pillars of Communication. So Garnett's a man who dives deep, he's my kind of person, and this conversation fueled me for days after we recorded it. All right, so with that, we're going to get right to it. If you like this episode, you want to show the podcast some love, please rate and review it wherever you're listening. And don't forget to subscribe. You can catch all new episodes that are dropped every single week for you. All right, thanks so much, guys. Now let's get on with the show. All right, let's make some magic. Garnett Strother, what's up, man?
I'm chilling, man. You know, we're out here in the Lower East Side. Me, my dog Cleo. You know, she's ready to hang out, get some lunch probably.
Nice, man.
She's
Good.
looking at me.
Yeah,
But
you just got
ready to rock.
Yeah, no, you just got some training. How was MMA today?
It was great, man. I got worked on the ground. Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. I mean, sometimes you're the hammer, sometimes you're the nail. Today I was a little bit of both, but it's the rule of thirds, right? Sometimes it's shitty. A third of it's shitty, a third of it is really good, and a third of it's like, I don't know.
I know. That's when you're questioning everything that you do, right? So
yeah. Those are the breakthroughs happen.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm lucky to have a good crew.
Yeah, no, totally doubt. Well, dude, first off, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate you connecting. Going to shout out our boy, Tyler Wall. He got us connected with you, and you guys did an awesome podcast on his one, the School of Atypical Insights, where you guys got deep into a lot of the work that you've done. And, you know, man, you're kind of like a renaissance man in health and fitness. You've been in a lot of different modalities and, you know, from the training work, from the martial arts with the work that you do in the city, but really getting into the communication work with your book. So yeah, we're going to jam on quite a bit of stuff here. But first off though, man, really appreciate you taking the time.
It's my pleasure, man. Any friend of Ty Dolla $igns is a friend of mine.
There you go. Love it, man. Yeah. So, I mean, you've been doing this for a while. I mean, both on, you know, the personal training side, the strength side, you work with coaches as well of helping them, and also in martial arts. Like what first got you interested in kind of the physical world of health and fitness?
Well, I was really sick as a child. My mom, you know, shout out to my mom for taking care of me night in and night out. I suffer from really bad asthma because of the conditions in my home. You know, no parent wants to admit that, you know, their kid is suffering because of their environment. I being a parent as well. And let me tell you, like, my mom did the best she could, but some things she couldn't help at the time. That was the circumstances we were in. And at the time I was very, 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 very bad asthmatic. And I usually, when I got a cold and asthma at the same time, I would get viral pneumonia, and that would shut down my lungs, would shut down my nervous system. And sometimes I would get so sick that I lost the ability to walk. I'd be paralyzed from the neck down. And, you know, I don't know if you ever, you know, it felt like you were already in a casket. It felt like you couldn't, you know, being paralyzed and not being able to breathe without the assistance of equipment is extremely detrimental to your psyche when you're a kid. It's not something you can really describe, you know?
How old were you?
And I was like from the age from like 6 to 9.
Yeah.
Because it happened a bunch of times. It happened a lot. It got really bad at one point where I got close, where like they were really, you know, I remember the last time I went, I stayed in the hospital for so long. They just sent me home with all the equipment. Like, yo, listen, you know, your insurance ran out. This covered it for about, you know what I'm saying? They were like, listen, best of luck to you. Here's all the stuff that we can legally give you. And some stuff that my mom kind of borrowed from the hospital.
Yeah, I mean, you do what you have to, right? It's
she's like, my boy's gonna make it. You know,
right.
She wasn't messing around.
Yeah, no, fortunately I didn't. I had a friend though, I remember growing up who had very severe asthma. And I mean, as a kid and a friend, you don't know what it is. You just think that they
Yeah.
don't breathe too well, but same type of stuff. Like it can get
Hmm.
to a point, especially, I mean, that's a pretty impressionable time too, like 6 to 9. Like that can really kind of stay with you for a bit.
It stayed with me forever. Even into martial arts, you kind of like in the back of your mind, how's my breathing? Is the biggest source of insecurity in my conditioning work was my breath control. So I also made it a high key focus on my martial arts training was my ability to breathe. And different points of my training, I was able to meet different people. At one point, I met David Blaine, and one of my mentors was working with him, was really close friends with him, and he was working on the breath hold trick that
Hmm.
he was working on, a 17-minute,
Yeah.
I think it's more now, but 17-minute breath hold that he was working on. He failed the first time. I don't know if you
Hmm.
remember that. But he's been working on that for a decade. All the things that Blade does, he works
Yeah.
on them for, for years and years. And I took that to heart because it meant that, first of all, I got firsthand to see how his training went in the
Hmm.
gym. A lot of the stuff that we did in the gym was all diaphragm control, right? He wanted to push your lactic acid threshold, but then also breathe in a way that you can't get a full breath, and that's what it felt like to be a asthmatic. It felt
Hmm.
like you couldn't ever get a full breath. But when you have like your abs fully engaged and
Yeah.
you're able to breathe, your VO2 max goes up because you get used to that.
Yeah.
You get used to that sensation of maximizing the amount of oxygen your body can handle. But you
Hmm.
also makes it more athletic.
Yeah.
Like when LeBron takes a hit to go into the hole, he has to brace for impact, change direction, maintain control of the ball, and take probably another impact on the way down and
Yeah.
land in
Yeah.
one shot. That's every time he goes to the hole, right? So that type of kinesthetic awareness it can be taught. And
Yeah.
that's the first thing I remember about training myself is that all of these things are skills that can be taught if applied in the right context and applied with the thoughtfulness and the mindfulness that you can change whatever conditions you're currently in. It doesn't matter like where you started from. It doesn't matter what your goal actually is. If you're determined enough and you believe in yourself enough, you can accomplish it.
Yeah. I love that you said that about the skill because I believe that too. I mean, I come from the world and training of like strong first, where we call that like breathing behind the shield. Like you get that brace and you
Wow.
still breathe through it. And it's a skill of strength. It's like if you can control your breath and you can still, engage your abdominals, all of a sudden you can see like that 10-20% increase in that
Right.
absolute strength that you work with.
Right.
Yeah, that stuff with Blaine, I remember, seeing the work that Blaine does. I mean, talk about mastery of something. That guy goes so deep in it. But
He's a
breath work is, I mean, it's so powerful from what you can do just from changing your nervous system, over
mhm.
and the skill to develop of it. So you learned that pretty early on then.
I think that the awareness came to me first, but the skill and the understanding that I could actually improve it came way later because I had some more hiccups as well.
Mhm.
I had a tough childhood and
Yeah.
adolescence, and it was not only because of my personal issues, but because I became a father very early as well.
Mhm.
Even though that I eventually conquered asthma, I was also diagnosed with this rare disorder called exercise-induced anaphylaxis. I break out in the hives, like severe hives that shut down, again, my nervous system, and I can go into cardiac arrest if I keep training. So
Oh.
it's a precarious thing. Yeah, I discovered it the hard way. I was training for the Golden Gloves, and one day I was on the treadmill, I was running 2 miles, I just started breaking out in the hives. Everything got swollen. My eyes, my tongue, my throat, hot, like just like full on hitch.
Mhm.
Like, except I was beet red and I'm a black guy. So
Mhm.
that's to let you know that I was in
Mhm.
trouble. So they called the ambulance and then I got diagnosed on a little bit later that day. And then it just was like, man, I thought I was fighting through an asthma attack,
Right.
but I was really fighting my body overreacting with an allergic reaction
Hmm.
to exercise. So it was like, man, those are two really big mind fucks to overcome.
Yeah.
when you're trying to be a physical, when you're trying to be an athlete, you're trying to do anything in the physical realm, and your breathing is the number one thing that you're aware of, and that's the biggest hindrance. It's a huge hurdle to overcome for me.
Yeah. No, seriously. I mean, because just improving your cardiovascular, your strength and stuff like that, it pretty much has like all upside from there. But all of a sudden,
But
like something like this just pops up from there. So did you know it was something different than an asthma attack right away? Or
no,
yeah.
no, I had several attacks like that
Mhm.
that I confused for asthma.
Oh, okay.
I remember playing basketball one time. I was on a layup line for my team, and then I started breaking out.
Hmm.
And then I just thought it was something I ate. I was like, okay, well, but thank God I got diagnosed at that time, because I thought it was just something I ate or something. We didn't know what to think.
Yeah.
We
Is
didn't know
there
what to do.
is there a treatment for it that you can?
There, not, I don't know now, but
Mhm.
maybe, but back then it was like, bro, there's nothing you could do. I was
Yeah.
like, so what do I do now? I stopped doing martial arts. I stopped training.
Mhm.
I was like 23 years old, 24 when I got this news.
Okay.
And they were just like, dude, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
There's no treatment for this. There's no EpiPens don't work, Benadryl. Um, you just
Just
gotta be
gotta like
aware
ride
of
it
when,
out. Yeah.
yeah, it gets really bad. And then if you stop being active, your heart rate goes back to normal, and the swelling kind of retreats.
Mhm.
But, if I kept going, let's say I was in the middle of a fight, it's the middle of the first, second round or something. If I kept fighting, the worse it'll get.
Oh
The
man.
worst, yeah. So
Yeah.
it was like that kind of my mental
Mhm.
attitude about it, where you really have to, make a choice.
Yeah.
So I decided to become a personal trainer.
I know, right? I was gonna say, like, how'd you? I mean, because you're a fit guy and you've done a lot of work still. So, is it a tolerance that you built up to it, or is it something that you still have to monitor? And
Nah, man, I'm just like, fuck if he crash.
yeah,
I'm just like, fuck it, because
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, I was surrounded by so many people that stopped just before the threshold of victory that I did not want to be them. I'd rather die on my shield doing what I love to do
yeah,
than to say, well, the doctor said it's not a good idea. Let me find out myself.
yeah.
I'll figure out my own limits. Thank you. I'll figure this thing out, and that's what I did. So I think later on that year, I won my first martial arts tournament thanks to my my coach, Shidoshi Nathan Ingram, one of the most amazing martial arts instructors who's ever lived, and he's taught many people for free, over 10,000 students for free in the Lower East Side, and now he has
Wow.
yeah, man, he's a legend, man. Stopping bank robberies, beat up drug dealers, and all of those. Like,
Oh
yeah,
my
man,
God, it's like a real life superhero.
he stopped the yeah, man, he stopped the bank robbery in the 80s. And Mayor Koch was in the bank, or Mayor Koch gave him the key to the city. I forget. The newspaper clippings of all the things he did were all in the dojo.
Mhm.
Really big shoes to fill. This guy,
Yeah.
he's still around. He's still around teaching, and I think he runs the
Just,
Deadly Art of Survival page on Instagram. If you want to check out some really cool memes, his son,
oh,
I
nice.
think, was it? Yeah,
Oh,
his
very
son
cool.
Jacob. Hmm.
Just a true teacher right there, just giving them, just spreading the message out there. So, how did you
Bro,
meet him?
he was the neighborhood guy. I was hanging out at Chinatown Fair. Shout out to all my Street Fighter heads.
Mhm.
My boys were nasty in Street Fighter. Third Strike. Third Strike is the greatest rendition of Street Fighter ever. So they were nasty, right? They were like ranked in the world,
Mhm.
And I would just go to Chinatown Fair. I would go to CF just to watch them play, because
Mhm.
they were so nasty. It was the closest thing to actual combat I felt, even to this day. When
Mhm.
I'm playing Street Fighter, I feel like I'm actually sparring, the strategy and everything. Anyway, so I'm hanging out. I don't have any money to play, and I'm just hanging out with my boys, and I run out of cash. So I go outside for a second, and I look to the left, and there's this beautiful awning. It says Chinatown Martial Arts, and underneath it says DAS, Deadly Art of Survival, Shokujutsu
Mhm.
Ryu. So back in the day, Chinatown had a bunch of martial arts stores.
Mhm.
They had books and DVDs and CDs, and you also got like weapons and stuff, like legit nunchucks, legit throwing stars, butterfly knives. So I thought it was a new one of those across the street.
Mhm.
And this is like a Sunday, maybe 9 p.m., 9:30. Nothing's really like cracking. This is like
Mhm.
early 2000s. So I walk across the street by myself, and I walk in, and this big burly black dude sitting across on the in the front desk. He has a suit on. My coach always had a suit when he wasn't training.
Really?
He always stayed dip. Oh yeah.
Okay.
And he walked in. I was like surprised to see a black man across the way, and I was like, man, is this a martial arts store? No, brother, this is a school. And I look around. It's beautiful. This beautiful dragon tapestry on the ceiling, and then one room was traditional martial arts,
Mhm.
wooden floor, like a true dojo. The emblem in Japanese of DAS above,
Mhm.
two katanas on top, and then the room over was for kickboxing. And it was just all matted, just for pads and all that, but everything brand new, state of the art, all his and his partners, and I was just like in heaven. I was like, oh
Here we
my
go. Mhm.
God, this is it. I'm good. And I stayed with him. I'm the fastest black belt in the history of his in his school, I believe. Somebody might have beaten me by now. Some kid must have beaten me, but at the time
Okay.
I trained with him every day. I trained with him for
Mhm.
easily 3 to 5 hours a day. I lived in that dojo. I breathed in that dojo. I did
Mhm.
everything. But I started with kickboxing. I wasn't really into karate because Bruce Lee,
Sure.
forms are dead and da 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 da, and that was my
Mhm.
ideology back then. But
Wow.
anyway, in between that time,
Yeah.
from sick kid, in high school to that time, I had a daughter, and that was truly the major catalyst in
Mm.
my life.
Okay.
Aries was the you know the moment that I realized that I have to be the best version of myself no matter what, and I have to make some sacrifices, and my friends are not going to understand me, my parents aren't going to understand me, and the world may not understand me, but I have to commit to these ideals while being true to myself and still becoming a champion someday, still following that path of a martial artist and helping other people discover themselves through training and communication.
Mhm.
That was a true
Yeah.
catalyst.
What were the sacrifices at that time? I mean, obviously, you can understand how big of an epiphany type moment that is, and it's a life-changing type thing that can happen in an instant. There's not too many, moments in life that can make you completely change than having a child, and all of a sudden you're responsible for this in the world. What were the sacrifices that immediately came up?
Well, my friends were still figuring it out. They're a little older than me, but we were hanging out in St. Mark's in the East Village and figuring out life. And, even the way that my child came about, to know that she was coming was, that they were coming was, filled with turmoil. At the time, I wasn't really getting along with my mom, so I was in and out of the house. I was staying at my grandmother's place, and then that was kind of hectic because it's like 15 people.
Mhm.
Sometimes folks come in, sleep on the floor. It was that kind of deal my whole life, and I was like, I
Yeah.
don't really want to be around that noise. So I kind of was in the street for a little bit, in and out, and then eventually kind of stayed out. At some points, like, you just out. You're just on the
Mhm.
street trying to figure it out.
Mhm.
And I remember her mom, who I was madly in love with at the time, she just broke up with me because she had her own things going on. She was from the South Bronx, and her mom was undiagnosed paranoid schizophrenic. So the household for her was very, rough for her. And 5 months after the breakup, we kind of reconnect at school, and she goes to the doctor and finds out 5 months into the pregnancy that she's pregnant. So it wasn't like, you know, I was out here like wilding and, just seeing all these kind of girls or whatever. I got caught up out here. I was madly in love with my daughter's
Mhm.
mother. I would have done anything for her. And then, she kind of like didn't pay attention to herself and her body and didn't even realize she was pregnant.
Mhm.
So 5 months in, I have 4 months to prepare for this new life. She's like,
Yeah.
yo, we gotta get it together. And at the
Mhm.
time I'm 17 years old. She's just turned, I think she was 16. I just turned 17 and 9/11. Yep. 11 days after 9/11. So 4 months after 9/11, my daughter was born.
Mhm.
And we had to just get my shit together. So shortly after that, we had fallen out because of her household, my household, and we weren't seeing eye to eye, so she just vanishes. She just takes off with the baby. I don't see the baby again for another almost 2 years.
God.
Within that time, I dropped out of high school, tried to find a job. That was a strategy. But then, I thought that New York was going to snap right back. 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
It's like the November after 9/11. Well, I'm like, all right, let's get back to work now. No.
Really?
No. New York was like, it was good and bad, because at one half, you kind of had that Dr. King's vision of all the people
That
working
unity,
together.
yeah.
Yeah, that unity was something else, man.
Yeah.
People just giving away food. Hey, can I help you? Do you need anything? How can I? Yo, it was like a utopia,
Yeah.
but with AR-15s on every block in Manhattan. Every 10 blocks there was up until 59th Street. Every major landmark had the militarization of the police. It was crazy here.
Yeah.
But I live on the Lower East Side. You can see the smoke billowing across the lower Manhattan from where I live. You can see the soot, the ashes of the people that were there. And it was like, FEMA came to my apartment and said, hey, listen, if you sign this, we'll give you a check for a few $1,000s. You can't sue the city of New York. Here's some air purifiers and some air conditioners. Make it work.
Oh God.
That's the vibe that it was happening in New York.
That's the emergency situations that pop up.
Yeah, man. And then they had the first responders, people that we should be taking care of, have to still fight for their rights, still fight for care. 90%, most of the people that died during 9/11, that died after the fact. So living here was just toxic, right? Most people that died during 9/11 died
afterwards,
years
all the
later.
aftershock, yeah.
All the aftershock. So, I'm just lucky to be here, and, my family's okay.
Yeah.
But for that year and a half, it was a struggle, because who's going to hire some high school dropout, regardless of my situation, you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I took that time to work on myself. And that's when my journey into personal development began. I would just pour into books. Most people went to college at like 17, 18, but I put myself through my own tutelage.
Education.
Right. The people that inspired me were self-taught anyway.
Yeah.
Malcolm X, Miyamoto Musashi, Bruce Lee. He went to philosophy school, but that was on his own volition. They're incredibly well-read, and they're incredibly well-disciplined. And I embody that. And that's always been my goal, is to help people with something that is of that caliber.
Yeah.
And I think that communication is the way to do it.
No, I totally agree. I mean, it's a hell of a time right there too. It's like, and just when you start just getting into the development, it's like, yeah, you gave yourself your own education. So once you reunited with your daughter at that time, what's the timeline when you got into the personal training world?
I started training when I was in high school. My first session was in Tompkins Square Park in East Village. Like, I was teaching people martial arts that I learned from books and from the boys club. I would read martial art books. I would train myself at home, and then I would go to the 10th Street Avenue A boys club, because they had a ring. And every Tuesday and Thursday night, they would have like fight nights.
Okay.
Run by this guy's sensei, Gary Bell. Shout out to Gary Bell. He's a good dude. He's a good man. And he let me come in off the street. And, like back then I had a reputation of like, I don't know about Garnett, man. He's a little rough around the edges there. I was very, let's say parents would not let me play with their kids. Like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, I had a mouth like Samuel L. Jackson. It was like,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like 11 years old, and I'm just like, this motherfucker. And, it's like, so, but he took me in and was like, listen, I've seen a ton of kids like this, and it's either going to go one way or the other. So all I can do is give you the tools. And he allowed me to do that. There'd be guys with all kinds of different disciplines. I was always on my own thing. I was always like really very, very invested in what Bruce Lee was talking about as far as being formless, and I really embody that. I did not want to be tied down by the constraints of any kind of ideology or any kind of
Mm-hmm.
framework that the world had pushed on me, because I fit every major category as far as a statistic was concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Fifth, you know what I'm saying? I'm an
Right.
underage black teen dad. I'm a black male. I'm
Mm-hmm.
unemployed. I'm a high school dropout. There's only one place
Right.
in
Yeah. You're just supposed to not
2001.
make it. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. No
You know
doubt.
what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's only one place you're
Yeah.
going, baby, and I
Yeah.
hope you packed.
Yeah. That's, I
So
mean, that's some serious, personal insight at a pretty young age to recognize formlessness, because that, I mean, that's a powerful thing that I kind of hope that we all get to, because when you conclude in your ideas, right, you stop seeking. Like if you're
mhm,
so ingrained into just one idea and you can almost become a zealot of that, then it's like you close your mind off of any other thing from there. So
that's right.
yeah, that's something it's interesting that you learned that so early on. Do you feel like that was just out of necessity? Like, I just need to open my mind because there's something more to this that I'm going to find out? Or was that something like from kind of early on that you were always just more just kind of, I'm going to experiment with these different ideas and see what I can take from it?
Well, I didn't have time to experiment with when it came to things, because it wasn't like a fun, like,
Yeah,
thing for me. It was like, it was a
the
little bit, it was
necessity.
mostly out of necessity of adaptation. It's like the law of variables, of variable requisites. The law of variable requisites states that the thing or organism that has the most options will evolve and to be successful. So it's really about how adaptive you are, and that's a terminology from robotics, I believe, from AI.
Mm,
That's how these AI systems are built. Chat GPT, you tell it what it wants, and it accesses this bank, which everybody can see. You access this bank of information, and then from that information, it creates this story and narrative.
right.
It's not quite sentient yet, but at the same time, we work the same way. What you put in is what you inevitably get out in some level, whether it be
Hmm.
subconscious or consciously. And I was very aware that if I had total autonomy, why not maximize my capabilities? There's no limitation but limitation, and there's
Mm,
no way but way. So I don't think that we're doing that enough. I think that as people, you know, I don't like hearing, like, when I tell someone something really personal about my life, um, and they're like, "Man, how'd you get through that? And how'd you do?" I mean, like, those things are inconsequential to me. Like, it's not it's about the end. It's about excellence. It's about being your best. I
mhm.
know you're tired. I've been tired. I've
Yeah.
been tired, yo. But I get it. I get it. But there's something bigger here. There's something
Mhm.
bigger here. This is your whole life's journey you talking about right now, dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
What
saying?
do you
Wow.
think what do you think that misconception is that people get? Do you think it's just a closed off idea that they just don't understand it because they're dealing with stuff themselves, or they don't understand? Is it like an infinite game versus finite game type of thinking?
It's
Like, what do you think that
distractions,
is?
man.
Yeah.
It's just distractions. It's distractions. You're allowing yourself to be distracted by things that truly have no value in your actual life.
Mm,
Any kind of shortcoming that you feel bad about a decision, it's because, even if you feel like you're gaining something for whom, you have to ask yourself. Are you truly moving towards the thing that really drives you every day? Or are you working towards someone else's goal? Are you just passing time? Are you living, or are you existing?
mhm.
It's really not that difficult. It's just that most people are afraid to ask themselves these questions. And I had to
Yeah.
ask myself these questions my whole life. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
it ain't no thing for me. We can go there.
Yeah, right. Well, it's interesting, Garnet, with distractions, right? Because I think there's almost this false idea that we're going to get to a point in the journey of what we're trying to do with, maybe it's a health and fitness thing, whether maybe it's a personal development thing, that all of a sudden all the distractions are just going to be gone, and all of a sudden now
Hmm.
you're tunnel visioned, and it's
Right,
like, no, that's an everyday event. That's a mindset of an everyday, because
right.
just distractions are always an option. Like, it will always be an option
Hmm.
every single day for you to
Absolutely.
distract yourself over. I mean, that's why the cliche term of simplicity and consistency over and over
Hmm.
again. And yeah, I've heard that so much from people who have mastered martial arts, because there's no other way to really master a martial art than just put your focus into it and just practice it day in and day out. There's no pill that you can take to all of a sudden be a black belt. Like you just
No,
gotta put the reps in.
and that's not the goal either. You know, I'm a black belt. I didn't feel no different. My instructor put me through
Yeah.
hell. He's a notoriously difficult instructor. I
Mhm.
didn't feel. I knew I was nice before I got the belt.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I knew I was nice before I got it. I put the work in
Right.
every day. And then I didn't just do it for myself. I stayed after class and helped other people. And that's how I developed the skill of communication,
Mm.
understanding that I could see things through people's, through people's perspective. That's what makes me a great instructor, is that I understand the realities of the
Mhm.
people that I'm listening to. And now I can explain other people's realities on a subconscious level and a conscious level now. And, it's about just bringing names to the terms that we all experience
Right.
every day. I'm not a
Mhm.
master, and even your own people that you look up to aren't masters. The
Right.
reason why you look up to them is because they didn't stop.
Mhm.
They never quit on their journey, even
Yeah.
though they got tired.
Yeah. It's funny. It's when you talk about the path of mastery, right? It's like you realize that you are on a path of mastery when you know that you're never actually going to arrive there. Like the goal is to
Yep.
keep
Yeah.
playing it. The goal is to keep playing every day. I love what you brought up on communication. I know that's something you're really passionate about and you're working on. So, I mean, you studied a lot with NLP. You're writing a book with Kagami right now, which I want to dive into.
Hmm.
When did the passion kind of to learn more about the art of communication, did that come early on in kind of your process of training and development, or was it something that all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, this is a path that I want to explore more?
Um, no, it's always been there.
Hmm.
This book is mostly a return to the source for me and for everyone else. Everything in life is cyclical, and when we are listening to each other's stories, we realize the patterns in everyone's story. It's not that we're very different, it's that we're very similar. And part of the reason why I named the book Kagami, which means mirror in Japanese, is because
Hmm.
we live in a hall of mirrors. Through listening to you, I understand myself. We are constantly reflecting each other's realities and projecting each other's realities onto each other and affecting each other. You know, the fact that we know that people are going to listen to this conversation affects our conversation
Hmm.
subconsciously, right? We're aware of that. We're aware of these things, these words, right? So why not be aware of the structure of language itself, right? That's what I call personal technology. The first technology was language. Every word that I say, the previous word that I said before it defines the word after it. That is the structure of language.
Mm. Hmm. Man, actually, I never thought of it like that. So I love that term of Kagami, with mirrors, because I resonate with that so much. And I think I told you before, one of my mentors, Brian Grasso, used the term Sayubona from South Africa, which
Mm-hmm.
which means I see you. Where
I see
in
you,
yeah,
dog.
we're in that tribe. They actually, when they pass each other, they stop and completely, like it's
Right,
saying, like, I know, just I see you, but I'm in taking in all of you together.
right.
And I think it is. I think it's not a lost art, I don't believe, but I think it's definitely been diluted down a little bit with different forms of communication or how people communicate now, where just the connection of seeing eyeball to eyeball and face to face and just communicating with someone, it's still the most powerful thing that I believe that you can do with someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
It's
you can't artificially just make it. You can't do it through a text message. Like you have to speak, you have to hear the tone, you have to, connect with. I guess that's probably why it's an art form, right? It's not just a technology. It's not a science behind it. There's a science, but there's also the art behind it.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The art, I think the language of art is spoken on the subconscious level. That's why it's subjective. There are universal things that are beautiful. If you can see behind me, there's a mirror behind me.
Mhm.
It's not my actual
Yeah.
background, right? It's a giant
Mhm.
mirror. And the things in that mirror are not the things itself. We have to realize that when we're talking to people, the map is not the territory, the menu is not the meal. These are representations of things or experiences that unfold in our lives, they mean something to us because we give those things meaning. And we have to realize that when we're talking and listening to people, we have to understand that our reality is not the reality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we don't operate the world that way. We think that we make sense.
Right.
We make, right? we think that, that we're not crazy. Everybody's hallucinating.
Right.
Everybody's hallucinating,
Mm-hmm.
And when you realize that life and conversations are a lot funnier, public speaking would not be the number one fear of people if they really understood that people are there so that they can hear them. They're there to hear you. They want to hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They want to hear you. It's not that they don't want to hear you. It's that you don't want to hear yourself. You are afraid of some other deep-seated thing that's going on with you that you haven't addressed yet.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I remember hearing that first of like, that's like the number one fear of everyone. And I can understand being a little nervous because it is opening yourself up, but it shocked me a little bit. Like, really, that's like the number one fear is getting up and exposing yourself. And I was like, yeah, because we don't really teach or talk about the practicing communication that much anymore. It's kind of like we just talk like, okay, you know English, I know English. Okay, we can have a conversation, but what are you actually speaking about? What are you really connecting on from there? To have deep conversations and spread messages and values, like I said, that's a super powerful tool from there. And I don't think it's taught as much as maybe it should be.
I think that, you can't really teach that. You gotta experience it. It's like a fight. You don't know who you are until you get into a fight. I personally believe. I'm not on some like real tough guy shit, but like on some like, you don't know who you are until you're worn down unto your base decisions and you're at your bottom self, and you know what your conditioning is, right? Now you know who you are when you are in a situation that you don't have time to process. You just have to think and go, and whatever's innately in you is what will come out of you, is what that means. Right? That's all that is. So public speaking is more about you're hallucinating, that you're imagining what they're thinking, and that's impossible to understand. It's impossible to understand what other people are thinking in a crowd. You just got to work on expressing yourself and trusting that you have the capacity to express yourself clearly and concisely. That's all that is. That's all. It's trusting you, man. Like, if anybody's afraid and listen to this and they're afraid of publicly speaking or giving presentations or even talking to their spouse and being afraid of being judged or misunderstood, try speaking that person's language. Right. And speaking their language is easy because you've already listened to them, right? And that's why my book is, the subtitle is Kagami, but it's also the art of listening.
Right.
And the 5 pillars of communication. It's that you have to listen first.
That's interesting. I want to go into the 5 pillars. You brought up a memory. I think it was an Ed Milet talk he talked about with speaking, and really just kind of the art of coaching. And he said, no one has to believe what you say. They have to believe that you believe in what you're saying. That's really the art of being truth and authentic. And if you believe it, then the right people are going to, believe it as well. But like anything, it's a skill that you can develop. And so with this, you said the art of listening. I thought that was a really interesting thing that you brought up, because some people think, oh, you listen. Like how do you mean, or how would you define like the art of listening?
Okay. So first of all, there's structure to how people explain things. Everyone leaves clues to how they interpret their reality, right? What you just did was form a structure in which it was a completely open-ended formulation. It wasn't like, tell me how that feel. What does it feel like to listen? What does it look like to listen? No, you said, give me the experience, right? Like, give me what is that, right? So it allows me to define my reality. Because could have said that the art of listening isn't even auditory at all. It's mostly watching people's body language and then listening to their tonality, because as we know, that's 70% of our communication is from body language. Yeah. right? And then the little piece in the middle is tonality, and 6% are the things that what we say are the words, right? Like 6% of that. That's why text messages are terrible.
Yeah.
You're missing out on 94% of the conversation.
It's crazy.
You know, right? Like that's why I'm a big gift guy myself.
Yeah,
exactly. You know what I'm saying?
I love gifts.
Gifts are
the best thing.
They're king.
Yeah.
They're king.
Yeah.
You want to know how I feel about this?
Because I send audio messages to people that like I don't really know much before, but I was like, I'm not going to text this. I'm going to message them. Hey, what's going on? That's
so much more intimate, and I'm sure they really appreciate that, as long as they're not in like Vegas at a day club somewhere trying to listen to somebody. You know, but I think that's key. The art of listening is, first of all, being playful and understanding that you're not the God of the universe. I know you feel like from this perspective, it works that way for you, that you are definitively the architect of reality from your perspective, but it doesn't. We're in a collaborative effort here. We're constantly influencing each other.
Yeah.
And to, again, distinctly know how to train your mind to listen to the submodalities or the three senses that predominantly make up our speech when we're identifying how we feel, see, or hear things, right? You know what I'm saying? You feel me? Yeah. You feel me, dog? You feel me? You feel what I'm talking about? Kinesthetic people. They're like, oh man, I've really touched my heart. You know, that kind of language. Oh, that person is kinesthetic in this context. You know?
Yeah.
Or I see what you're saying, visual people. You know, this looks like a vision that I've had in the past. I saw it so vividly. That's all visual language.
Right.
So if I said to that person, oh, I hear what you're saying. Do you hear what I'm saying? I just used visual language just now.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
See what I'm talking about? I see what you're saying, dog. I see.
It is.
Your body language envisions
Yeah.
exactly what it is that they're trying to convey.
Yeah.
Because again, we're matching and mirroring constantly. And I got to speak your language to be understood by me. I'm not going to go to Russia and speak Chinese. I'm going to learn how to speak Russian.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And part of that is the mannerisms of stuff. It's so fascinating, Garnett. I think especially in the coaching world, you know, when you're working with people who are coming and seeking advice about how to better themselves, you know, obviously if they don't really know you very well, then the words that are coming out of their mouth, they're going to probably be a little guarded. You can feel it. You can see it right away. And then, you know, I used to talk about this with people when I managed a health club around here. And it'd be so crazy. I would see people who were just starting like in their personal training journey. And then a couple months in, they were really progressing. The way that they walked in to the gym and like swiped their entrance card in and went to the locker room to change was completely different. It was a different confidence. They walked in like they own the room. And I said to myself, I'm like, you have to make sure that you tell them that. Like, and I would pull in people before, like, hey, Jen, come on in here. Like, hey, do you know that you walk differently when you come into the gym now? And they're like, what are you talking? Like, I'm like, yeah, it's like when you came in first, you were shuffling your feet. It was like a nervous type feeling of coming in. Now, all of a sudden you're walking in like you're the queen of the freaking the health club. And she's like, yeah, I feel really good. I'm doing awesome. Like with this, it's like, yeah, it's totally showing. And I think it's so fascinating if you listen to that, because we think of that like listen like with your ears. It's like, no, with the term Kagami, like you said, if it's mirroring everything in there, you're listening with all different parts of you.
That's right. And the funny thing about trainers is that there are three contextualized versions of trainers. You're talking about owning the space. That person, probably when they came in, is deeply internally motivated. And the gym is a very insecure place. Like everybody is so self-conscious, right? And you're going into a new space. You're trying to work on your most insecure area, your body. And you're going to be around everyone's favorite thing, new fucking weird people.
Yeah.
Trying to do the same thing. And we all have our own rules as to how we navigate the world. How in the fuck is this possible? There's no reason. I mean, there is a reason why the gyms are like number 2 reported on the Better Business Bureau as negative experiences. Like this is facts. Like it's like airlines and gyms. These are the 2 most hated places that people complain about all the time. And it's because we're all in our own place. But if we understand each other's modalities, we understand each other's patterns. So when someone walks into a new space, right, and then you see how they navigate spaces, the way that gyms are laid out, you have a certain theme of machines in one area, and you have a certain theme of machines in the other area. It's because that gym was designed by someone who is thing oriented. They're oriented by actual objects, right? That's a very specific trainer. You know, trainers that, hey man, can I work in? Hey, we got 3 more sets.
Yeah.
Bro, can we work in?
Yeah,
like, dog, it's not that serious, right? Like, come on, right? That's a thing-oriented trainer. Thing-oriented trainers also don't say hello to you in the morning. They're not concerned with people. They're concerned with their tools. They're tinkerers. They love fixing things. They like the little hand. No, I gotta have both the handles that match. You know, they're baby. I'm getting, baby. I've been working in this industry a long time.
I had a guy I worked with forever that, oh my God, memories are popping up so much where like would look at every person that he worked with. And I'm like, you're looking at him like a car, like you're going to put them apart and then put them back together. And it was like this, like an engineer's mindset of this. And it's like, yeah, you can program like crazy, but as a people person and a communicator, you're
speaking my language. You're speaking my language. You know, I excel at the people person part because I realized that's what intrigued me. But I also realized that they have their usages too. We need those engineers. I'm not fixing the lat pull down machine. Right. I'll just find something else to do. I understand that resistance and I understand that resistance and a certain range of motion, certain amount of body weight. I get creative with it. All you need to know is as a trainer, the secret is that you really only need to know anatomy, physiology, you know, energy systems, and you're kind of good. You know what I'm saying? Like all you need to do is like load plus you don't need to know all this other stuff, right? So for me, I just find something else. But the tinkerer, it would drive him insane. He would stop a session to fix that thing if he could, if he wasn't getting paid. Right. But then you have people like us, the people. Other trainers, there's 3 of us, right? There's only 1/3 of us that are like, hey, what's up? Unfortunately, the people are not in the best shape. They're not the ripped trainer. They're not those guys usually. I try to keep myself in the best shape possible because I'm getting punched in the face, right? I don't like that. I'm not getting choked out and punched in the face, right? So, but people that are real people, they talk way too much during the session. Their clients how many clients have cried on you on the gym floor? They trust you. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's better than therapy. Yeah. Right. When Tyler Durden went to the Cancer Anonymous, pancreatic cancer, it's like that. They can only cry here. They can only be themselves here. And I love that personal development. The reason why that woman walked in and she owned the space that you mentioned previously is because she associated that place with a positive experience with her trainer. Yeah. The context changes now. The power of that is immense. But then you have the other people. You have tinkerers with the things. You have people, and then you have the trainer that is purely about territory. The trainer that is like always in one part of the gym. These are your power lifters. These are your weight lifters. They use a lot of chalk. They spread the chalk everywhere. This is my fucking place. This is my house. They're grunting. They're sweating. They don't care about nobody else outside of the 10 feet that they're in. And they're in every single gym. And Planet Fitness, for some reason, hates these people. Yeah. You know, they hate these people to death. But those are the people that occupy the gym. Those are it. Either thing-oriented, either proximal, right? Your territory. And then you got people that are like.
And then there's the community people. Yeah.
And it's the community people.
Yeah.
We need all of those people.
It's, you know, it's interesting. I'm looking back at experience. It's been a while since I worked in a gym. You know, I have a different, you know, space that I work with now, but it's very much, you know, there is the macro on those specific spots in there. And I've known phenomenal trainers who are very, you know, empathetic. Like they deep dive into the emotional side. And there's a part of it too. And there's a great side to the technical one. There's the engineer side of it. And, you know,
need that.
We need those people who love to get deep dive into the science behind tinkering with these programs and playing it, planet general population. I agree. I mean, I agree. You follow the specific things, the A&P, the energy systems of how to work that. You're going to be able to come up with good programs, and the communication piece is so powerful, from there. But I think even if regardless of kind of where I guess your identity kind of lies in that, though, communication, I still think is that most powerful tool that you can connect with people on the deepest level.
100%. How great would a gym run if everyone knew that this person prefers proximity? Mm-hmm. Hey man, can I work in? Sure, absolutely. Because you just respected their space.
Yep.
Hey man, how many more sets you got in there? Mm-hmm. Looking good, by the way. That was crazy lift. That was crazy. Yeah. How many you got? Oh yeah, I got one more. I'm out of here. Then they start becoming conscious of the space they're taking up and the timeline, right? Then that's how you build rapport with people. You understand what they prefer and their reality. You speak their language. Mm-hmm. You speak their language. You don't try to impose, this guy's ridiculous. He's taking up all this space. And you're a people person, right? Yeah. And by the way, people are very annoying as well because we're not aware of personal space. We'll sit there, be chatting. Somebody's waiting for the machine. The machine guy, the tinkerer, he's like, bro, I got a program here. I got to get through these exercises within 48 minutes.
Yep.
Right. And everything is accounted for. Unlike me, I'm like, bro, my guy's like talking about how his wife left him, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're both very important.
Right. And they're in their own space. Yeah.
And they're all in the same. I can't explain, hey, listen, my man's going through a divorce. Can you chill the fuck out for a minute?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But if I know that I'm talking to somebody who needs the machine, I'm ahead of him already. Mm-hmm. I'm already out the way. And with my body language, I can tell my client to come with me to a secure location where they can really tell me how they feel while doing a movement that hits the same thing that the tinkerer would appreciate. So I'm doing all three of those things.
Yeah.
I'm taking them to a safe space, right? Mm-hmm. Proximal. I'm talking to them and I'm talking about the things that really matter to them, people. But I'm also working out and we're engineering their body to be an efficient piece of machinery. You got to master all three forms or else you're not going to be a sufficient trainer. And these are things that gyms should understand because you need synergy. That's how you get rock star training facilities. Mm-hmm. They have synergy. They understand each other's psychology. And there's usually one or two people at the hierarchy of that psychology that influence the people coming down. The culture, the work ethic, the mindset, the empathy when someone's going through a hard time. That's what makes a great gym. Mm-hmm. That's what makes a great work environment. Yeah. Is understanding people's preferences. Mm-hmm. That's what I made this book for.
Oh, dude, this is like a masterclass of the communication. What you said there about knowing the other person's language and adapting to them, that is so powerful because that also shows, I think, that you're secure in who you are, like you can allow yourself to adopt into another person's language. If you're not secure and you're holding on to your own ideals, you might block off if you're a technical person and that's what you identify as. And the other people could threaten you a little bit. It's like letting those guards down, be formless, kind of like what we talked about earlier of that, and allow these different things. And brought up one of my favorite words of synergy. Like that's when, and you feel it, like when you are in a space where it's synergistically moving, like that energy is just amazing. I've worked with some teams where like you just know, each other's movements. It's like a great basketball, starting five. It's like they just move. They just know exactly where the other guys are going, and they know exactly where they're going to be. It's a beautiful thing, and it looks effortless when you do it. It's like it's absolutely beautiful. So when's it? Do you have a time frame on the book of when you want to complete it and get it out, or is it still kind of in the works?
No, man. It's done. I'm just going through the last chapter and a half. I want to make sure that it says everything that I wanted to say. Things have changed since I wrote it so much. Things have changed a lot in my life. My daughter is 21 now. She just moved out. It's been 21 years since that beginning story.
Wow.
And I feel like I kind of closed the chapter of my life where I dedicated my whole life to my kid. They're non-binary, autistic, and type 1 diabetic. So we haven't had an easy go at this. And I had to do it myself. It took 10 years to get custody of her. So for the remainder, like 11 of those years, it was just me raising her with some help from my brother later on, and later on my mom at some points, But I think that, I did the lion's share of the work, but it's just me and her. It was just me and her.
Yeah.
It was just me and them, and then it was just exhausting, man.
Yeah.
In between that time, I won another title. I've traveled the world, and I tried to make sure that I didn't miss anything, so I didn't have any resentment towards my kid for being a young dad and missing out on those young guy experiences. But now that I feel like I've truly grown, it's time for me to step into my purpose. As it is, I'm sure a lot of people feel like in their lives, it is time, and it's been time. I've been working on this book probably, I feel like my whole life, And I think that the book will be done in a few weeks. It's already done. I just need to get it to some people to edit down, make sure that the spelling is good. All that behind the scenes stuff, that sexy stuff that they don't talk about behind it. I mean, I have the book cover. I have I have all those other things in place. The platform is ready to bring it out. But I think that, this is the tip of the iceberg. Stuff we're talking about right now is kind of just a little bit of the shavings, a little bit of the little pieces off of there.
I love it, man. Dude, Garnett, I could speak to you for hours, and I want to have you back for a part 2 if you'd be willing, because you're just a plethora of information. I love chatting with you. So today, dude, seriously appreciate you coming on and jamming with me.
I appreciate you having me, man. It's been a pleasure. You're a wonderful host. You're a wonderful host, man. You're really good. Very tight. Excellent notes. Yeah.
I do what we can. Exactly. No, seriously, man, this is a blast, and I want to have you back. If people want to keep up with all the work that you're doing, kind of check out the work that you do, what's the best place that they can go?
Just everywhere. Strother, STROTHER_PT on Instagram, Twitter, and on TikTok, I'm personal_tech. So just email me, strotherpt@gmail. You know what I'm saying?
Awesome, bro.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, brother. Seriously appreciate it. Guys, go follow Garnett. You know what to do, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.